The whole conversation of motivating employees, have you guys ever had a chance to Google that? What does it take to motivate an employee? That's probably one of the biggest questions that is asked in business. It's probably easier to answer the question, what do we not want from our employees? And I'm guessing it looks something like this. All right. How many of us are like, yeah, that person works for me? Yeah, we have those, right? It's extremely challenging to find out what motivates employees. And again, like I said, there is no end to the amount of information that is out there when we're talking about how can I engage, how can I motivate my staff. Even having an auctioneer run status meetings. That seems reasonable, right? Here's my argument. My argument is this. I bet that personal experience answers that question for us. I don't know if we need to have all this research to tell us what motivates employees. So let's test this theory, right? Let's see if personal experience really matters. I'd like you to get into groups of 2 or 3 or whatever you're going to do, right? Because that's just how we are. So break up into groups. I want you to talk about your favorite boss, the best boss you ever had. And it can be any boss that you've ever had. It doesn't have to be your current boss. If they're with you here, then I would say find a different partner. But honestly, when you were 15, 16, working at the car wash or whatever it was, who was your favorite boss? And share with your partner the attributes that they had that caused them to be so memorable to you. Okay? Go ahead, get into your group, spend a couple of minutes working on this. Okay. Let's go ahead and bring it in. So I would like to hear then, just throw out some of the attributes that you identified in your favorite boss. Now, I'm going to write them down, so that comes with my disclaimer. I made it all the way through graduate school without ever having taken a chemistry class or being able to spell, okay? So just sound it out, you'll figure it out, you'll get what it is, okay? So, what attributes did they possess?
Authentic.
They were authentic. I like that, that's excellent. What else? Leadership. Now, in leadership, what exactly was it about them that created leadership as opposed to just being, like the boss?
Setting the example.
Okay, so they were an example. Not only did they talk the talk, they walked the walk. Good. Trusting. Excellent. So they were trusting of
me.
You.
Yeah.
That's powerful.
Supportive.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Supportive. Okay, what else? Safe. And go ahead and Beth, go ahead and say yours because you've raised your hand.
Okay, I was just going to say, practice what they preach, like their actions were consistent with the values that they expressed.
Consistent. Good. And they were genuine? Okay, yeah, they listened. And I do want to give credit to safe right here because that is huge, right?
They were knowledgeable.
Knowledgeable. So they knew what they were doing, right? Okay?
Allow me to work my passion.
Okay, so you had a level of independence. Or we could say free to follow passion. It's just a lot of words, right? Good.
They were passionate about what they did.
Okay. Yeah, so not only did they allow passion, that sounds weird. Any HR people in here?
Why, yes.
Oh, why, yes. And we can't say that. Okay. So they were passionate people as well about the work.
Yeah.
All right, so raise the hands high if you want to add, if you want to throw something out there. So we'll go here, then there in the back.
Proactive instead of reactive.
Good. They were proactive.
They have your back even when you make a mistake.
Yeah, that kind of goes right in line with support, right? Have my back. Okay. Innovative? Not afraid to try new things? Okay, so they were encouraging, right? They were supportive. They helped build your own self-efficacy. What did you say again? Because I just said a bunch of words. Encouraging. Got it. I can do hard things. Okay, excellent. Good. Well, let's do one more.
They saw the best in me.
Okay. I'll just write it out. Saw the best in me. That's a pretty sweet boss, right? Yeah, they weren't afraid to tell us what we needed to hear. Okay, good. So that's a pretty sweet list, right? I mean, how would it be if we worked for that person? That's the dream, isn't it? What you just described right here is all the research that we need to know. If this was important for us as employees, couldn't we make an assumption that this is also important for our employees, for our staff? I think so. Easier said than done, though, we're thinking, right? Well, there's this science out there. It's the science of engaging other people. It's the science of creating change, positive change, in a direction that isn't only going to meet company expectations, but allows shared control to help the individual meet their expectations as well. It's a win-win philosophy. And this win-win philosophy, this shared control, being able to allow our employee to be human, is what we would call the single greatest predictor of change. So let's talk about change for just a minute. What does it take for a person to decide to change something? I'm not just talking work. Let's think about our own personal lives. For us to decide to change something, what does it take? Discomfort. Desire, which comes from discomfort, right? We don't change our cell phone providers until we're not happy with the one that we currently have. We don't change our jobs until the one that we have is no longer working for us. Our cars, our relationships, all of these things, we change them when it's no longer working for us, right? The other thing that we got to understand and respect about change is that change is a process. It's not an event. It would be nice as a supervisor to come down and say, employee, I need to change this by Tuesday. We good? Right? Have we ever tried that before? Yeah, how does that turn out? Yeah, and then we're wondering, well, why haven't they changed? I told them very clearly what they were supposed to do. Okay? So here's the other piece of change. Lasting change is self-change. If I don't have ownership of why I need to make the change, well, let's just put it this way. I can be anybody for a short period of time. I can fake it. In fact, the research shows us that we can fake it for about 6 to 8 months at our best. So if we're in a relationship right now, things are getting pretty serious, you want to get to that 6 to 8 month mark before those true colors start to show up, right? Lasting change is self-change. We have to have ownership of the change that is required of us. Or, even better, the change is their idea. They recognize the need for change. And that's what motivational interviewing is all about. Getting them to recognize the need for change. So, motivational interviewing is a collaborative conversation style for strengthening a person's own motivation and commitment to change. That's all it is. It's not a program. It's not a curriculum. It's just a way to have a conversation in a very person-centered manner. What I love about that is it takes the weight off of my shoulders. I don't have to be this all-intelligent boss who knows everything about how everything's going to pan out, and if you just do what I say, you'll do just fine. That's a big responsibility to carry, isn't it? That's a huge responsibility. Rather, have a conversation that allows a safe environment to explore whatever change needs to occur. So it's like we're guides, right? We're river guides. Anybody ever go whitewater rafting in here? Yeah, so anybody ever told the river what to do? Super awesome, isn't it? Yeah, and it just smiles right back at us, doesn't it? And then it dunks us. Yeah, change is like that. We can try to tell somebody that they have to change, and even though on the surface it might look like that, without that ownership, it's not going to happen. All right? One thing that we got to understand about about change is that we naturally resist change. We do. That's just who we are. Unless the change was our idea. Imagine we've saved up, we have the cash, we've done our research, and we're going to go buy that car. How exciting is that? That's a good change, right? Imagine getting an email from your boss saying, there's been a change in our pay scale, and it may impact you. How does that change feel? Less good? Yeah? Okay. So resistance to change is okay. It's natural. We naturally tend to resist change that's not ours. But one thing we know for sure, just telling people what to do doesn't really work that well.
It's just, there's all this pressure, you know? And sometimes it feels like it's right up on me. And I can just feel it, like literally feel it in my head. And it's relentless. And I don't know if it's going to stop. I mean, that's the thing that scares me most, is that I don't know if it's ever going to stop. It's not enough.
Are you sure? Because, I mean, I'll bet if we got that out of there.
Stop trying to fix it.
No, I'm not trying to fix it. I'm just pointing out that maybe the nail is
You
causing.
always do this. You always try to fix things when what I really need is for you to just listen.
See, I don't think that is what you need. I think what you need is to get the nail.
See, you're not even listening now.
Okay, fine. I will listen. Fine.
It's just, sometimes it's like, there's this achy, I don't know what it is. I was doing really well at all my sweaters are snagged, I mean, all of them.
That sounds really hard.
Ow!
Come on, if you would just
Don't,
All right. Was that just like incredibly painful for anybody? Yeah, we work with those people where the problem is so painfully obvious. And so we tell them what the problem is because it's there. Common sense dictates, right? And then what happens? How did I walk out of that conversation as the bad guy? What's going on? Like, I'm helping this person and I'm the jerk. We tend to resist change. How many of us in here love being told what to do? How many of us in here kind of resent yellow traffic lights a little bit? Yeah, we're just not the kind of people who like being told what to do. It's not what we're about, okay? So our typical reaction is to resist being told what to do. It doesn't work that way. So motivational interviewing came out in the early 80s at the time of, break them down so we can build them back up. You guys, anybody work during those times, right? How can you tell when an addict is lying? Their lips are moving. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we had that mentality, right? That break them down so we can build them back up. So motivational interviewing literally was an accident, okay? So Bill Miller, University of New Mexico in Albuquerque, he was developing a DUI program. He wrote a curriculum. And what he wanted to know was, what is going to be more impactful? Having the group go through the workbook together with a facilitator, or if they just take it home and do it on their own. So they set up their control studies, they ran their samples, and to their surprise, what they found, because they were seriously expecting that the people with the facilitators would do better than the people with the workbook. Isn't that kind of what we would think? Yeah. So what they found is that some groups did better with the facilitator. Some people did the worst with the facilitator. Like, worse than the people who just took the workbook home on their own. So they were totally confused by this. They did not understand why that was the case. So they went back and they were racking their brains, and one of the interns threw out this idea. They said, what if it had to do with the facilitator? So they started to explore that. They started to code facilitators, and what they found was that some facilitators were nice. They were supportive. They were kind. They were that stuff over there that you guys recognized. Other facilitators were the type that were like, if you smoke marijuana, you're going to die. But my brother's he's going to die. But, right? It happens. I've seen it, right? So, yeah, she's like, that's no. Nobody would do that. This is your brain on drugs. That's all I got to say. So what they found then is that the type of facilitator that the clients had were the ones who were most successful. What that means is the kind of clinician that we are, or the kind of professional, or the kind of employer we are, really has a huge impact on the culture, the experience, and the feel of our team. It starts with us as managers. Okay? So motivational interviewing has been researched a ton, and especially in the fields of addiction treatment, mental health treatment, and now the medical field. That's really kind of been their next push, is the medical field. And so far, the research has been very, very promising. So as of 2013, there were 1,200 publications, 200 clinical trials. In a nutshell, being MI consistent increases the likelihood that a person is going to make positive change. All right? We would go as far as to say that it is the single greatest predictor of change, being MI consistent. Now, I totally made this up. I don't know if it's true or not. But to me, I would say that motivational interviewing is about 25% the technique, 75% just the way that we have this conversation, this collaborative conversation. And the way that we have that conversation has been found to be the thing that makes the difference. So let's take a look at some research in our field, in the human services field. So Dr. Rudd, he's been out to Idaho a few times. Have you guys seen him before? So he says, even the best therapeutic techniques are of little value when an adequate relationship has not been formed with the patient. Bongar, clear back in 1989, said, more often than not, the extent and accuracy of the clinical assessment will be a function of therapeutic comfort and trust. And then Bill Miller says, in psychotherapy research, the quality of the therapeutic alliance between client and therapist, particularly for the client, directly predicts both retention and outcome. So that's great for our clients. Are our employees our clients? Sometimes. Okay. Let's take a look at some research. You guys didn't find that very funny. You were like totally offended. I'm sorry. Let's take a look at what the research then from the corporate realm has to say about being an effective boss. Okay? Well, first of all, you guys already demonstrated what it takes to be an effective boss, haven't you? I mean, that's right. That's our own research right there. Okay? But check this out. Forbes has an article they did in October of last year, things that make great bosses unforgettable. 3 of those attributes: genuine, human, humble. Does that fit with your list? How about Business News Daily? Collaborative approach to leadership is what makes a difference between being a true leader and just a boss. That was just this past April. CNN Money says that respect, appreciation, trust, and support are what it really takes to be a great boss. Does that stuff fit with what you guys identified? And here's the truth. It's the 75% of motivational interviewing. It is what Miller and Rolnick, the founders of motivational interviewing, it's what they describe as the spirit of motivational interviewing. And that spirit of motivational interviewing is what they've summed it up right here. Partnership, acceptance, absolute worth, accurate empathy, autonomy, affirmation, compassion, evocation. Now, that's great to see it in words. But can we really connect with people through words? Everybody just do this. Okay, good. You're still on. So here's what I'd like to do. I would like to show 2 videos, and I want you to keep in mind the first video as you watch the second video. When these videos are done, I would like us to talk about the differences that we both saw but the difference is that we also felt. Now, disclaimer, I am not a horse pro. I've never trained a horse. I've ridden horses a few times. Some were pleasant experiences, some were not. I'm not a horse pro. That's not the important thing here, okay? Listen to the differences that you saw and felt in these two examples.
This big fella was the leader of the first mob we brought in. We're calling him Lightning. This is when you really need to read the animal to avoid a kick in the head, or getting hung up in the ropes. It's easy to forget that these animals are wild. Hey, whoa, 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 whoa. So this was the main buck, the stallion, and one of the mobs that we brought in. Definitely is the proud one of all the horses and the hardest to break in. But he's quiet now, and he's learning to trust us. From here, we want to get a saddle on him and try and ride him. Off him now, you're all right. Closer will work with him now, while I start breaking in the next one. Because we've got so many horses to get through in a short period of time, we're sort of bringing him through, one person just leading him and just getting the holder on, and once they get into here, we're putting the saddle on. Come on, settle down. It's alright, mate. Well, I've been riding stock horses since I was 6 and breaking them in since my teens. At this stage, my job is giving them the first ride. It's not the most comfortable ride to get started.
Yeah, why don't you give it a go, mate? You can see how it would be pretty dangerous pretty quickly.
Do I? It's okay, Nash. Let's get back on and try again.
All right, so that's horse breaking number 1, right? Remember that, keep that in mind. Here comes horse breaking number 2.
How old is she? 4. I want to tell you that in starting Krona tonight, I would like her to accept her first saddle and rider in about 30 minutes, but it's up to her. I will do it with her as a partner. I will not force her to do anything. Okay? So I'm going to turn her loose now and see her just decide to go away. So I'm going to say, fine, Krona, that's all right. But don't go away a little. Go away a lot. And about 4 or 5 laps in each direction in a round pen like this will constitute a quarter of a mile. And then, after you've negotiated your roughly quarter of a mile, I'm going to put her back in the same direction that she traveled at first, the original direction. And let's watch her communication with me. Let's see if this inside ear will find me, and the outside ear will listen to the rest of the world. There it is. Inside ear already finding me, like that. And the other ear on the outside, moving to listen to the rest of the building. And that's the first gesture, generally speaking. And the second gesture is to make a smaller circle, which she just did. So there's all 4 gestures. Smaller circle, ear, licking and chewing, and dropping the head down by the soil. Now I'm going to move in and just move her off me a little bit because I'm ready for join up. Square up. Attention. And draw her to me. Moment of joy. Stand in front of her and reward her for that. And then walk away from her. Follow up. Holy moly. A miracle. Oh, my uncle told me about saddles too. He did? What did he say about them? He said, buck them off. Yep. Did he say why you would buck it off? He said they tickle. Well, this is how it might tickle a little bit. But no big deal, Mr. Roberts. That's how it tickles. I'm going to buck it off. I'm going to put that tighter. And then we're going to put the second billet on. Right up so that it rides her. Like so. Oh, my word. Oh, Corona. What is the deal? Help. I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble. Oh, my word, Corona. Corona, Corona, Corona. Hee, hee, hee. Oh, good girl. You trying to buck it off? Yes. I want to be afraid that I want to come to you. I don't want to go away from you anymore. Now, this is unlike my father's method where you tie a leg up on him, get a whip, get things to frighten him with, tie him to a fence. Typical traditional stuff. Got to break the horse. But they don't come to you and they don't want to be your partner. They will simply wait until you've done enough to completely break them. I'm doing what I love to do and helping these wonderful animals called horses that have been so great to me. Starting with Ginger, my first horse, and Brownie, my second horse, and on to horses like Johnny Tibio with 4 World Championships. Horses have been fantastic to me. And every time I see them misunderstood and treated harshly, I have to step up and try to help. Not blame anybody. I don't think anybody wants to be just demonic. I don't think people are just demons. But they don't understand. Learn the language atlas. In 22 minutes, she has her first saddle on, her first long lines on, and making her first turns when asked by the reins. I would like it if Corona would do nothing but walk with Alex. Alex would like it too. She's already proven that she can buck. I'm going to just move her first. Then I'm going to put your foot in that stirrup now. Clear her backside now. Just give her a chance to feel you up there. Hey, easy, good girl. Be nice to him now. He's a good boy. And you can just begin to sit up now. Easy, good girl. Easy, good girl. So, yeah, 19. And we're just on 30 minutes, accepting her first saddle and rider, and walking quietly. While now, please, I was right about her killing.
Leona says, wow.
This is wonderful stuff. Look at this quiet mare that was just out here bucking a little while ago with that saddle on. Never having had a saddle on before. Now you can stop and back up a step or two. Take hold of those reins and just come right on back. Back, back, back. Good man. Okay. Down we go, son.
Okay. So just generally then, what were the differences that we saw and felt between the first example and the second example? Who will share? Peace. They weren't beating him into submission, right? Tie up a leg, push him over, right? And then, wow, I got bucked off into the fence. That's weird. Trust. Okay. And how did he demonstrate the trust? You weren't ready for that question, were you?
No, but I can answer.
Okay, go.
Sorry, I know. So in the first video, it wasn't until after he did his, I'm not a horse person, I don't know, whatever you call it, but all the rope things, when he was on the ground, that he then started to pet the horse and kind of start to connect with the horse. But there's already this, what I perceive as a sort of a traumatic kind of thing.
Yeah.
And in the second video, the horse person just kind of let the horse do the leading.
Yeah.
And he gave a very gentle prompts, and he knew when to keep it slow and to pick it up. So he kind of, I thought, gained the trust of the horse by how he kind of let the horse lead the thing.
And it was the first thing that he did, right? Which I love in that first video. It's after he ties up the leg, pushes it down, and he's sitting on it.
Yeah,
And he's like, oh, you're good. We're friends, right?
The horse is like, yeah, well,
I broke a rib.
yeah.
Okay.
Well, I was going to say, I'm a horse person and a dog training person and a special ed teacher. The body language in the horses never stop being afraid.
Yeah. They never stop being afraid. They never come to you, and they never want to be your friend. Right?
I was just gonna say, going off of, I'm sorry, I don't know her name. Christine, we were just, instead of like the first one where he just immerses it and like, okay, I'm jumping on, you're gonna like it or not, we're doing
Yeah.
this. And the second one, slowly, baby steps, acclimation, getting him used
Yeah.
to little things.
Gave the horse time to also be comfortable with the situation.
Be ready.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Good. Okay.
Well, it didn't even seem like it or not. It was, you're going to like it because I'm telling you you're going to like it. I'm going to make you like it regardless.
We call that mandatory fun. Anybody ever do a team building activity where it felt like mandatory fun? Yeah, hey everybody, we're going to go do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Do I have to? That's a tough one, right?
It was amazing to be aware of how I was feeling watching these two, and just how uncomfortable that was
Yeah.
to watch that type of breaking
It's painful.
together.
Right.
And I'm sure that's
The energy is just completely different. I can feel a change in energy in the room. You know what I mean? Showing those two videos. Okay. Last two comments.
I mean, obviously, if you're going to break the pace, you want to do it as kindly.
Yeah.
But both of them were breaking.
Yeah.
That's not what we want to do.
Yeah, well, let's not break our employees. Good. And I think you make a really good point. Like, the outcome was the same, but the route to get there was completely different. Okay? Let's hold on to that, because I want to carry that part into our next discussion. Final comment.
I was just thinking that it was more individualized. So
Yeah.
the first video, he was like, okay, well, this is my part, and then I pass on to the next while I get the next one ready. And it was just like, boom, 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 like, let's just get the next person going, and the next horse. And then in the other one, it's like, okay, let's take the time with this person for how much time they need and give them that attention. And it's not just the number.
Yeah.
I care about this particular horse person,
Right.
and I'm going to give them the time.
Yeah, I'm going to connect with this horse as opposed to that first example, we got so many to get through, And seriously, you don't have to say this out loud, but has supervision ever felt that way? I just got to get through these people, see where they're at, check their caseload, and move on, right? Sometimes we get a little hurried in that process instead of actually being present with our employee. So, horses and our employees, what do they have in common? I'm just kidding. That's a terrible question. How do these two examples, though, fit with what we're talking about in terms of working with our employees, the way that we manage our staff? Where's the parallels?
I think it relates back to experience, similar to the horses. The first one was a negative experience, the second was positive. So if we're motivating our employees, we want to give them a positive experience to have a positive outcome.
Yeah, thank you. I love in the second video, the first thing he says is, this is what I would like to have happen. But it's up to them. I will do that with them as a partner. I will not force them to do anything. Now, here's what's weird about that. We have a job to do, right? They apply, they are hired to do a specific job. So how do we do a specific job and still give them that shared control of the job? How do those two things coexist? Approach, my approach, right?
He was guiding him. He was you kind of have these two options, and so they were still kind of let the horse lead, but he wasn't just standing in the corner watching it happen.
So here is, and that ties in with what we were talking about earlier. We have outcomes that we need to accomplish, okay? And the way that we get on the same page with our employee, believe it or not, is that job description. These are the things that we need done. This is how we would support you. Can we do this as a partner? Have we ever taken the time while hiring staff to develop a collaborative partnership and be completely transparent about the expectations and make sure that they can share in ownership of what the job is requiring? And then, once we understand what the job's requiring, we know what outcomes we need, allow them the autonomy to find the best way for them based on their talents, their skills, their abilities to get to that outcome. That doesn't mean that I'm not transparent. That doesn't mean that I'm not doing my supervision to make sure that things are getting done. But it does mean that I view my employee as a partner with shared control in their job. They're spending 40 hours a week with us. We might as well have a positive experience doing it. Other parallels?
One thing that I was thinking about is that the saddle kind of represents change, and that's all in how you present that change. There's going to be those employees that are going to buck, and they don't want that saddle, they don't want that change.
Yeah.
They want nothing to do with it. And then in the second video, it's allowing them to come beside you, and then they are more apt to go with that change.
Have we ever, and the thing that I love about that is he allowed the horse to have its reaction. Have we ever, knowing that a change was coming up, staff were not going to be happy about it, have we ever given them their time to just kind of rant and rave about it? True story. This was 6-7 years ago. I took over a team down in Salt Lake, and there was a lot of trauma on this team. A larger corporation took over, completely changed the feel of this like small town agency, where everybody knows your name, they're happy to, totally changed the feel of that. This big corporation came in. That's when I was hired, because the person that I replaced was not appreciating the change and left. So I took over the staff that was very frustrated. About 3 months into the job, right? I do my best to make changes that everybody agrees with, that everybody's happy with. We go and do a little staff retreat. Mandatory fun, right? They were so angry. We spent half that day letting them rant and rave. And you know what? A lot of that was directed at me. I allowed them to have their time to freak out, right? After that was over, a week afterwards, the most resistant, the most stubborn stallion of the group came to me in tears. Thanks for just listening to us. And that changed the entire feel of that team from there on out. But I had to give them that time to have their emotional reaction. And it was hard. It was hard to sit there for a half a day and just kind of take on their emotion. I had to go do my own therapy after that, you know what I'm saying? It was hard. It was really hard. And I don't regret it. In hindsight, I don't regret it for an hour. He let that horse have his emotional response, reaction. Our employees, knowing that resistance to change is natural and normal, do we allow them to have that time to change? So here are some things that motivational interviewing is not, and some things that might get in the way of a collaborative partnership with our employees. Number one, being confrontational. There's a nail in your head. I don't care how you do it, but get it out by Tuesday, all right? That doesn't work, right? Confrontation only creates resistance. If we want to feel real lonely real fast in our workplace, be confrontational, okay? The other thing that it's not is it's not wishy-washy, right? Like, I'm not asking us to be vague, and I'm not asking us to go back to our team and say, hey, you know what? Whatever you guys want to do, just do it. I'm sure it'll be fine, right? We're not wishy-washy. We have a direction. We have a purpose. We have a job. And part of that is being passionate and understanding the real value and meaning behind what we do. We are fortunate to work in a field that is not about money, but is about purpose and value and sense of duty, right? That, we are fortunate because everybody who works in this field at one point or another probably thought, I would like to help people make positive changes. There's a lot that we can connect with our employees, okay? The final thing is it's not touchy-feely, right? I'm not asking you to like hug your employees, okay? Or, you know, you don't have to do their dry cleaning for them and go to their kids' soccer games. We don't have to do that stuff, okay? We can be firm, we can maintain clear boundaries and expectations and still do so in a respectful, collaborative way. Other leadership styles that are going to really shut that down, we talked about the confrontation piece. How about that expert role? Can I tell you what I oftentimes think of when somebody says, but I'm an expert in my field? Yeah, you're probably jaded too, right? Because longevity comes with a sense of jadedness in this industry, okay? The expert piece doesn't work. It puts too much responsibility on our shoulders and takes all the responsibility off of our employees. Labeling, okay? This is a tough one because we do have labels in our job. They're called job titles, don't we? Yeah. Do we allow flexibility, though, outside of those job titles? There are companies out there who explore with this idea of there are no job titles. We are linear. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know how that's panned out yet, but it's really interesting to watch. I'm excited to find what the outcomes of that are. Then we have these other things, being, the premature focus, right? I mean, this is jumping the gun on one of our employees, asking him to do something that perhaps they're not prepared to do or ready to do. Nothing makes them panic more than asking them to exceed their ability. We need to know our employees. The blaming trap. How about this one right here? They have my back, as opposed to they blame everybody else when something goes wrong. As opposed to, if you guys would have just done what I told you to do, we wouldn't be in this crisis right now. Compared to, wow, how can we grow and learn from this experience? Okay? So in motivational interviewing, we have 4 main goals, 4 primary objectives. These are kind of the fundamental pieces of motivational interviewing. They are being empathetic, right? Showing empathy, recognizing that our employees are human. Supporting self-efficacy, rolling with resistance, and developing discrepancy. Where are they? Where do we want them to go? What would it be like if we managed with these principles in mind. So let's take a look at each one of these. Expressing empathy. Has anybody ever worked for an employer where they felt like they were viewed more as a robot? Like, the expectation is you live to work. Has anybody ever had an employer like that? Wow, am I the only one of the... Okay, good, thanks. I was like, I feel really bad for myself now. Yeah, we do not live to work. We work to live. I am going to guess that if it came to our jobs and our family, well, I'm going to hope that our family would win out. Okay? Our jobs are an important part of our identity and who we are, but it is not all of who we are. Okay? Has anybody ever heard of Brené Brown? She has some amazing research around guilt and shame, obligation. Let's take a look at this quick video, her interpretation of empathy.
So what is empathy, and why is it very different than sympathy? Empathy fuels connection. Sympathy drives disconnection. Empathy, it's very interesting. Teresa Wiseman is a nursing scholar who studied professions, very diverse professions where empathy is relevant, and came up with 4 qualities of empathy. Perspective taking, the ability to take the perspective of another person or recognize their perspective as their truth. Staying out of judgment, not easy when you enjoy it as much as most of us do. Recognizing emotion in other people and then communicating that. Empathy is feeling with people. And to me, I always think of empathy as this kind of sacred space when someone's kind of in a deep hole and they shout out from the bottom and they say, I'm stuck, it's dark, I'm overwhelmed. And then we look and we say, hey, I'm down. I know what it's like down here. And you're not alone. Sympathy is, ooh, it's bad, no. You want a sandwich? Empathy is a choice, and it's a vulnerable choice, because in order to connect with you, I have to connect with something in myself that knows that feeling. Rarely, if ever, does an empathic response begin with at least. I have it, yeah. And we do it all the time. Because you know what? Someone just shared something with us that's incredibly painful, and we're trying to silver lining it. I don't think that's a verb, but I'm using it as one. We're trying to put the silver lining around it. So, I had a miscarriage. Oh, at least you know you can get pregnant. I think my marriage is falling apart. At least you have a marriage. John's getting kicked out of school. At least Sarah is an A student. But one of the things we do sometimes in the face of very difficult conversations is we try to make things better. If I share something with you that's very difficult, I'd rather you say, I don't even know what to say right now, I'm just so glad you told me. Because the truth is, rarely can a response make something better. What makes something better is connection.
So, motivational interviewing really is about developing that connection. And its original intention was to develop that connection with our clients. But if I could add one word to that list of bosses that made a difference, the word I would choose is they cared. Having gone through personal tragedy in my own life, having a supportive boss who took the time to listen and check in with me on my personal life was a huge source of support. Do we know our employees as individual human beings who have human emotion, thoughts, reactions, challenges to their daily life, which, look, they're going to bring it to work. It's going to come to work. Is it a place where it is okay for them to be human? for us to recognize, truly, this is Stephen R. Covey right here, okay? Change, we are dependent on our staff to alert us to changing in the culture, in the mood, in the tide, right? If we don't have a connection with our staff, they don't feel free to express, how are we going to really truly know what's happening on our team without that connection with our employees? So the next goal here is what we call support self-efficacy. Self-efficacy is this belief in myself that I can do the job, that I can accomplish the task. I am qualified and competent. Okay? Supporting self-efficacy is helping them have a belief in themselves. How motivating is praise versus punishment? Huge. I am going to guess that we probably worked harder for this employer right here than we did for an authoritarian jerk of a boss. Is that true? Our production is greater when we feel supported and appreciated by our employers. Stephen R. Covey also said the value of time invested in people pays incredible dividends down the road. Do we believe in our staff? Do we share with our staff their positive attributes that make them a worthy human being? Do we support a belief in themselves? Now, the next piece here is rolling with resistance. If we recognize that our employees are human, we've established that, right? Our employees are human, we get that? Good. Then that also means that resistance to change is normal, natural, and predictable. I can expect it. So how do I react when I experience resistance from my staff? Well, I get all confused and I'm all frustrated. I'm banging my chest. I'm like, what the heck's going on here? Or could I just roll with it? Do you guys remember that rule about what happens? What do we do when we're lit on fire? Do you guys know that rule? Stop, drop, and roll, right? Stop, drop, and roll is also the rule for resistance in our employees. I need to drop my need. Oh, I should probably start with the first one, huh? Stop. Okay, I got to stop what I'm doing. If I'm experiencing resistance, I have to stop what I'm doing. Okay? And check myself. Is it because of me? Am I approaching this in a way that is creating some of this resistance? Then I got to drop my own need to be right, to be the expert, and to take it personally. Harder said than done, right? Even if it is about me. Can I own it? Hey, you know what? I'm really sorry. I didn't approach that very well. I apologize. Can I try again? I got to drop my tendency to take it personally, to be right, to be the expert. And then finally, we roll with it. If they're angry, that's okay. We can let them own that. The truth is, we should never have to apologize for feeling however we feel about anything that we're feeling. If I have a reaction to something, that's my right. Whether it is right or wrong, it is my privilege. The same is true for our employees because they are also human. If they are angry, let's give them that. Let's validate their right to be upset. Okay? The final piece here is developing discrepancy. This is where we're at. This is where we would like to be. This is how we share power with our staff. Have we ever asked our staff, what would you like your job to look like? What would you like your job to look like? Now, here's the great part about that. They're going to give you one of two very general answers, right? One, Well, I really would like it if I could be working off of a yacht in the Caribbean making $150,000 a year. Okay, so if that's their answer, what do we do? Cool. What is it going to take for you to get there? It is not going to involve working here. Right? But that's okay. If that's their ultimate goal, why wouldn't I support them in that? Do you know why I got into this field? I was studying hospitality management. I wanted to run a resort. Sun Valley was my inspiration. Okay? I wanted to run a place like Sun Valley. So that's what I was going to school for. But I needed a job, and one of my roommates was working at the Student Wellness Center. So they hired me as a peer mentor. I loved that job so much, I changed majors. Because I loved what I was doing. And it's been a personal journey. Can we support our employees in their personal journey and recognize that their journey may not end with them in our agency, but may result in them going somewhere else? That's okay. So that's the first response. They say something totally outlandish, right? How can I help you get there? Okay. The second response is they're going to give a more realistic response, something like, you know what, if I could also have some time to work on researching this or developing that, let's support them in it. Now you be the judge if that is beneficial to your agency or not. But supporting that, allowing that autonomy is critical. And them having that means more to us as humans than money. So those are the 4 basic principles. Empathy. They're humans. Let's let them be human, right? Let's show them that we care. We support self-efficacy. We believe in them. We trust them. You guys have trusting up on the board. Let's allow that trust, and whatever increment we might be able to do that. Okay? Let's roll with it. If they're angry, if they're upset, that's okay. Validate that. Let them have that. Let them own that. And then finally, of course, help them accomplish what they want to out of their work. What do we want this to look like? And let's work on a plan to get them there. Now, earlier I said that motivational interviewing was not wishy-washy, right? We had a direction. Remember, if we are like river guides in this collaborative conversation, then that means that we are not the only ones calling the shots. The river dictates where we go. We simply carry on a conversation. And this is the direction of that conversation. All right? We call it the directional objective of motivational interviewing because it's on the picture. Our very first step in a collaborative conversation with our employees is engaging with them. And truly for today, because we only have like 20 minutes left, is going to be the focus on that, on engaging. But just because it's up here, then we want to jump to focusing, evoking, and planning. There, I've said it. Okay, so let's talk about engaging. How do we engage our clients? Remember, keep in mind this idea of a river guide, right? If I'm a river guide, what is my primary tool? What's my primary source of control? The river. The river is, like I'm the victim to the river, right? Okay. What do I have in my hands? The paddle, right? Or, in MI terms, the oar, right? Oars are the tools that we have to direct this conversation. Just like oars are the tools that a river guide has to direct how that raft navigates the river. So we're going to talk about each one of these oars. I would have liked it if we could spend some time practicing these, but I don't think we're going to be able to today. Everybody all together? Aww. Okay. So let's talk first of all about the power of engagement. So a few years ago, I was doing a training in Portland, Maine, all right? And it was the end of the training. I went to the airport, turned in my rental car, went to the ticket counter, and they said, your flight's been canceled due to weather. I'm looking outside. It's like 70 degrees and not a cloud in the sky, right? I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So they looked it up. They couldn't get me out until like a day and a half later. But they said, if you drove down to Boston, you can get out the next morning, 5 a.m. I'm like, okay, cool, I'll go to Boston, sure. Now, this Idaho white boy who has never driven in a place like Boston, holy cow. Has anybody ever driven in Boston before? Yeah, it's like the closest thing that I've come to really being in a video arcade game. Like, you know, where you're driving up on the ceiling of the tunnels and you're doing jumps and stuff. It was madness. And this was before smartphones, okay? So I MapQuest how to get there. I try to memorize it. I drive to Boston and I get lost. Totally lost in Boston. And I'm in a neighborhood that is pretty dangerous looking to me, at least, right? I was stuck there for a long time. The way I got out is I finally followed a city bus. I'm like, I don't know where I am. I'm just going to follow this city bus. For like 45 minutes, I followed this city bus, and it finally took me to an interstate I could get back on and find my way to the airport from there, right? I go into the car rental place. It's like midnight now, okay? I go into the car rental place. There's a lady at the counter. I put the keys on the counter, and I say, I'm never renting from you guys again. You know what she said to me? You've had a hard night. Yeah. I have had a hard night, right? Just melted my butter. It was powerful. She let me have my reaction. She let me freak out. And I'm happy to say that I've rented from them many times since. Okay? So, the OARS is about engaging, bringing our clients, our employees along with us. The first step of this, or, right, remember these are our tools for river guiding, right, is open-ended questions. I know that this is not new for us. We have all been told, hopefully, to ask open-ended questions, right? Why open-ended questions? What is it about them? We get more information. Absolutely. What else? It engages them how? How do we engage that? Yes, absolutely. It brings out them.
And it gets them to think about and reflect about what they're doing, why they may be doing something, why they may not.
And for some of them, it may be the very first time that they've had this verbal conversation, that they have expressed what they've been feeling. So in terms of open-ended questions, I was saying earlier, it's really interesting because we've had a couple presentations now and their keynotes, so they're right and I'm wrong. Because anyway, so they said that the why questions, that's what it's all about, is the why questions, right? Well, so that's great. The research that we found in motivational interviewing, in interacting, having this collaborative conversation, is that why questions tend to increase resistance, right? Have we ever had somebody, well, why? Well, why would you do that? Why did you think it would be a good idea to put the coffee in the coffee machine? Right? Yeah, it's demeaning, right? It's demeaning and it's obnoxious. So what we prefer are how, what questions in terms of engaging and interacting with others. How would you like your job to improve? What would it take for you to be more comfortable here? How can I support you as your supervisor? See, these questions automatically send our brain in search of answers. We don't even have to try. It does it automatically. Have you seen a pink elephant? How many of us have a pink elephant in our mind right now? Yeah, absolutely. Our brain is automatic. It does it by itself. So how and what questions are a form of engaging our employees in this conversation? Let me say one thing really quick. These oars, each one of these is its own individual, separate skill. We don't have to do these in any kind of order. These are tools that go in our tool bag that we can use to carry the conversation as we need to. The next one is what we call affirmations. Now, here's what's really interesting, and this has been stated time and time again in business research. Praise is more motivating than money. Have we ever had an employee say, boy, man, this agency just doesn't pay anything? Anybody ever get complaints about pay from their employees? Yeah, it's constant, right? It's constant. However, there are things that are more important than pay, and that is recognition. Now, motivational interviewing calls it affirmations, right? Saturday Night Live calls it, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and doggone it, people like me, right? I think that this is the best version, though. I want to hire her. I want to know who this girl is, and I want her on my team. What would it be like if our employees did that, right? What would it be like if we recognized our employees for their positive attributes, for the good work that they do? This is a hard line of work. We are the only field that I know of who makes people hate us for trying to help them. That says something about our own mental health. We have enough battles to fight professionally. We should not be fighting in-house with our employees. Recognize the positive qualities that they possess. Affirm that. Build them up. It is more empowering than money. Okay, the next one is reflections, and I really regret that we're not going to be able to spend time on this today. But reflections are really the most powerful tool that we have because it does it does many things, but the most incredible thing that it does is it validates. It makes it okay. I'm never renting from you again. You've had a hard night. That simple response took away all of the resistant anger that I was feeling. And sometimes that is all our employees need, is to feel safe and to feel okay to be upset, to be hurt, to be angry, or to have concerns about a particular item, right? We make it okay by reflecting what they've said. Now, a couple of things that we got to understand about reflections, right? Reflections are statements. They're not questions. It is a simple response. I'm not challenging. I'm not questioning. I'm just looking for that deeper meaning and sharing that with them. Reflective listening is all over the place, and it has been written even in corporate books, corporate leadership books. It has been written about, okay? Many, many times. It is an incredible skill. So let's do this. Here's a couple resistant statements, okay? Let's throw out some resistant statements to some of these. I'm going to guess probably some of us have heard before, right? So when our employee says, I can't believe we didn't get a bonus this year, how would we respond to that? You're disappointed you didn't get a bonus. That is a fantastic, what we call a simple reflection. where we simply restate what they're saying, right? A deep reflection is going in search of the underlying meaning. You feel undervalued. Is that maybe what they're saying? Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But guess what? When I genuinely reflect a person's resistance, I get credit for trying. And if I'm wrong, they'll correct me. You feel undervalued as an employee. No, I just used that bonus to go do my Christmas shopping. Oh, it creates a financial stress. Christmas might be different this year. Validating that, making that okay. This project is beyond my pay grade. Oh. It's overwhelming. You're questioning if you have the ability to do it. Right?
Is that a point where you can go, how can I help you?
Yes. Now here's the great thing about reflections. We want to jump to the fix-it part, don't we? And that part comes after a solid reflection. A reflection validates. It gives them the opportunity to hear their own statement repeated back to them. And it lets them know that we are here and we are present with them. Okay? You're asking too much of me. How would we reflect that? You're asking too much of me. You have a lot on your plate right now? You're wondering if you have the capacity to do it? You're not sure there's enough time in the day? Right? How can I help you? How can I support you? Right? Okay, good. I think there are better opportunities at whatever company. ABC company. Across the street, there's better opportunities. I know what I want to say. The grass is always greener on the other side, right? That's what I want. And that's really more about me feeling better, right? What if I responded with, you're keeping your options open? You want to grow as a professional. Or how about this one? You feel like you've hit a dead end at this job. What would it feel like to have that? Here's the truth. When our employees come to us with these kinds of concerns, they have a script that they've already played out in their mind, haven't they? They anticipate that we're going to respond in a certain way. So when they say, I think things would be better at that other company, what are they expecting? Don't let the door hit you on the way out, right? As opposed to, I think things would be better at this other company. You're wanting to improve your professional capacity. Oh, yeah. If you feel that it's that other company that's going to help you do that, I value that. And I'm wondering if we couldn't explore some ways to help you get your needs met here. How is that different than don't let the door hit you on the way out? My greatest improvements, my best connections with my staff have been through difficult circumstances. Allowing them to have their time to be angry and frustrated and working through that with them does more to build connection than I think any mandatory fun team building exercise, because it allows us to be humans together. Okay, the last of the ORs is what we call summaries. This is one giant reflection. Okay? I have an employee come to my office and they share all these reasons why they're not happy. The coffee is cold, the fridge is stinky, I don't have a window in my office, and I don't get paid very much. For me to be there, sitting with them, be present with them, and to summarize everything that they've gone through, to say, wow, it sounds like you're really frustrated. You come to work giving it your best, And it's frustrating when the company doesn't feel like it's invested in you. The coffee's cold, the fridge is a mess. You feel trapped in an office all day. And to make matters worse, you don't feel like you're getting compensated for what you're worth. That's frustrating. We take everything that they say and validate it, simplify it, provide some relief by making it a manageable, tangible package that we can work on. It's shedding the emotion, the fluff out of it, and getting to the root of the issue. Okay? Now, my biggest regret for today is that we're out of time. Because I go to noon, right? Unless you can tell me after. Do you guys want to stay through lunch? So, a typical MI training spends 2 days practicing, utilizing, exercising these skills. There are opportunities to really put into practice these MI techniques that we could absolutely use as managers and supervisors. What I love about MI is that it allows us to not have a program, not spend money to try some new fancy thing that we read about on the internet or saw on Good Morning America, but to simply have a way of interacting and connecting with our employees. That is the key. What you guys recognized right there. It's not so much what we do, but how we do it that makes all the difference, that creates the connection and the safe place to allow change to occur. And that is all I have to say about that right now. Thank you.